Good morning. How's everyone doing? Good, good. Great to be here, be back in the Bay Area. It's been 12 years since I've moved to China, and this is one of the few times I get to come back to speak. So I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, crypto, and the world today, the financial world today, and how anti-money laundering, what we call AML, the future of that. Are you guys interested in that topic? I normally talk about Bitcoin as an asset class, but the organizers wanted something more spicy. So this is my new theory about AML and all that. You guys know about AML and KYC? Who likes it? Who likes AML? Let's see. Raise your hand high and mighty high. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about KYC? Who likes KYC? The same people. Okay. And the rest of you? No? Okay. So how it affects our crypto future, okay? So our financial world today is actually changing because we're now in a crypto world. We've been in this for 10 years now, but probably more importantly, in the last few years, finally crypto has come into mainstream finance. Essentially, Bitcoin has been around for 10 years since 2009, so we're in the 10th year, and it's really starting to change the world. We have a lot of Bitcoin holders. Let's take a look. How many Bitcoin holders? Raise all your high. All right, crypto holders, excellent. And what I want to say is that for the first time in humanity, we can really trust mathematics in society. We've always known about mathematics, we learned it in grade school, but for now, what we're saying is money and financial trust can be based in mathematics, not just in government power. This is a big, big change. And with Bitcoin and crypto, what we're saying now is that information, meaning the private keys that you have in your Bitcoin wallets, is now your ownership of assets. It's now your proof. Meaning in the old days, you can own by physical, by having something in your hand, or you can own by title, meaning your car, your real estate, your bank accounts are in your name. But for the first time, crypto is this new third form of ownership where you own something, really tangible, expensive assets. A lot of crypto millionaires out there now, just by virtue of knowing the private key. We've had the age of computing for 50 years, for more than 50 years. We had the internet for more than 20 years. So that's all dealt with information, with data and so on. But that was just data information that could be replicated and copied. But for the first time, we now have true information in the form of private keys that could be not just a few $100s, a few thousand. It could be millions and even crypto billionaires out there. So think about that. That's huge. So I think there's a financial war going on, and people are not seeing it. What I mean by that is crypto is making a huge dent into the modern world of finance. And the reason is before crypto, the people who had control had all the control. The banks, the regulators, the huge financial institutions. And now crypto is giving people the freedom to own assets yourselves because all you need is the information, the private keys. So it's attacking fiat. We're seeing a huge attack on fiat. Those images are just currencies that have gone through hyperinflation or have been canceled because the government withdrew the currencies, like in India and Venezuela. It's attacking fiat and will continue to attack fiat because Bitcoin in the last 6-7 years has actually gone up 1 million times. So even at the so-called lower price now of $6,000, Bitcoin has gone up over 1 million times. Famously, someone purchased 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins. So in that sense, fiat has really gone by the wayside, right? So today, people are holding crypto not just for transaction usefulness, but also for preservation of value, store value, or investment. It's actually, Bitcoin, you can actually move value, not just geographically around the world, you can move it through time by giving it to your children and grandchildren, okay? But at the same time, what we're seeing is that everyone else is attacking Bitcoin. The whole financial industry is attacking Bitcoin. I'll tell you a personal story. I'll give you share some insights. I tried to open I didn't try, I think I succeeded, opening a bank account with Wells Fargo Bank. It was for a business real estate investment bank account. And you guys all know me, Bobby Lee, crypto guy. Of course, the Wells Fargo banker didn't know me, thankfully. She was asking me, is this for Bitcoin? Will you do crypto? I'm like, I didn't know what to tell her, But thankfully, it was for real estate investment, so I said no crypto, no Bitcoin. But if she just looked up my name on Google, then she'd probably flag my account and not approve it. So banks are giving us a hard time opening bank accounts. I'm talking about personal bank accounts, business bank accounts, not even as an exchange or as a crypto company. For those of entrepreneurs in the audience, if you're trying to do a Bitcoin startup, I don't care if you do it in the United States or do it in the rest of the world. If you touch the US dollar, you're going to have trouble with banking account openings. So this is a real problem. So what is their weapon? How does a financial institution today, how do the regulators today attack crypto? And what they do is attack it with AML, KYC, and regulation. These rules have been in place for more than a few decades with the banking sector. But with crypto today, they're really honing in and making life difficult for crypto holders. In China, since the close down of exchanges, the industry has gone to what they call OTC trading, over the counter. And one of the scary things that's happening in China, and I think it's first started happening in China, but this may happen in the US, and that would be very scary, is that for OTC trades, if the bank suspects you received a payment from a Bitcoin transaction, from a crypto transaction, maybe 100,000 renminbi, maybe $1 million or whatever, they can instantly freeze your bank account. And they've done that to many people. And that puts a chill to the whole industry. Think about that. By selling crypto in China, person to person, and someone else transfers you equivalent of $10,000 or more, if they freeze your bank account, what do you think? Will you get scared? Yeah? Any Chinese people has this happened to anyone in the world? Have you heard this story before? And has it happened to your friends? Where your bank accounts get frozen because you're suspected of trading crypto. It's almost like crypto is the new controlled substance. Drugs and marijuana or something like that. And it's quite scary. So now it's like, oh, I live in China. Should I bother trading crypto? I ask, if I'm gonna sell you some crypto, where does your money come from? Did you, is it laundered or stuff like that? How much can I sell? And it's really, really scary. But what they don't know, or what they don't think far enough ahead, is that it's actually doing them a disservice. The more they do this, whether it's in China or in South American countries, or even in the United States, I hope it doesn't happen in the US. But the more they do this, where they freeze your bank accounts because of suspicious crypto trading, the more and the faster the world will shift away from the banking sector into crypto. In the future, people will have their own money in their own hands, literally, and will refuse to deal with money that can be arbitrarily frozen. Because if I'm selling crypto, I'm not doing anything illegal. It's not drugs, it's not even alcohol, it's not guns and ammunition, it's not terrorism. But the mere fact that a bank can arbitrarily freeze accounts, that's very scary stuff. And the more they do it, the more they use a power of control to do this kind of stuff, the more the world will shift to crypto and faster. So, what is money laundering? It's a great question. And of all the bankers I talk to, and all the regulators I talk to, they say, oh, it's the law. You can't launder money. But what is it really? It turns out it's very subjective. If you withdraw, or if you deposit more than $10,000 into a bank account in cash, you get flagged, and you file a report in the United States. And same thing in the rest of the world that deals with the US dollar bank accounts. If you withdraw more than $10,000, it's also flagged. So I'm playing the World Series of Poker this year in Las Vegas, and the buy-in is $10,000. So I went to my bank account, Wells Fargo, and I withdrew $20,000 cash. I tried to ask for that. And they gave me so much trouble. They're like, are you sure you want it in cash? Or can we give you a cashier's check? I'm like, no, I want cash. And then they say, what do you use it for? And then I said, I'm going to go gamble. This is Las Vegas. And then the supervisor came out and she asks me, what kind of gambling do you do? What do you play? No, really. It's like, oh, I say I play poker and craps. Is it okay if I take the cash? She says, we prefer you not to. It's very dangerous with all this cash. It's like, I'm like, that's my money. So anyways, so that's just banks giving us trouble, okay? If you try to deposit money into exchanges, same thing. Not because the crypto Bitcoin exchanges don't want you to deposit, it's because the regulators giving me so much trouble. So money laundering is quite vague. And you hear stories about people now being indicted, being charged with wire transfer, what do they call them? Wire, these money laundering sort of laws. So my solution and recommendation, this is the controversial part of my talk today. I'm not a politician, maybe yet, but if one day, maybe 10, 20 years later, if I get to sort of represent people, in government, represent people in the government to set policies, here's a recommendation I would have. I would say don't criminalize money transactions. Criminals, when they violate the law, when they break the law, when they do criminal activities, whether it's murder, theft, or whatever activities like terrorism, harming people, we should prosecute for the criminal activity. If they're selling drugs, dealing drugs, that should be prosecuted. But what they do with the money afterwards, it is my opinion today that should not be prosecuted. Because it's very vague. Someone just asked me, I met with a reporter yesterday in San Francisco. Someone asked me, oh, if you give money if you send money to Russia, or if Russia sends me money, or Ukraine, or if you give money to ISIS, well, that's money laundering. That's what they call terrorism financing. I could go to jail for that, for giving money to ISIS. But I argue differently. I argue that if ISIS is selling me a banana, and I pay for the banana in crypto, I should not be prosecuted because I'm buying a banana. Right? So maybe my views are controversial, but my point is that in this future world of crypto, I argue that we should no longer prosecute and criminalize money activities, money transactions. Because the technologies have changed. The world has changed. Information is very, very hard to control. With the ease of the internet and the computing networks, information can be copied and transmitted at the speed of light all around the world. And you just don't know information out there is actually news information, social media postings, or whether it's private keys. On this slide with all the ones and zeros, how do you know it's not my private key to a Bitcoin account that has $1,000 in it? Or is it just random ones and zeros? So it's kind of like the other story. It's kind of like in the old days, legal paperwork, you have to sign it by pen and paper. And with the advent of fax machines in the 1980s, finally the laws changed where a fax signature was legally binding. Right? You guys aware of that? Well, now fax machines have gone away. But for a while, in the late 90s and early 2000s, when we had email and PDFs, for a while, only fax signatures were legally binding, but an email signature on a PDF was not legally binding. So people went through the hassle of having to fax a signature over, and that would count, but an email wouldn't count. But thankfully now the law has caught up, so that when today, investment documents or any legal signatures, you could do it electronically in PDF format, right? So my point is that we're sort of at this cusp where today crypto transactions are still viewed upon badly. Where I send you crypto, where I sign my transaction using cryptographic keys, private keys, it's considered anonymous payments. And IRS and the FinCEN and all that will give a lot of trouble for that. But I think in the near future, the money laundering laws has to change. Because if they don't change, the country is going to not be competitive. It's just like if a country still insists on fax signatures and won't accept digital signatures over email, then that country's framework is very old school and retarded, if you will. So my challenge is for governments to really embrace crypto, embrace crypto transactions, and really think carefully about what money laundering is there for. So in the world of crypto transfers, money laundering is going to be harder and harder to define and harder to catch. Crypto is freedom. This is why I love Bitcoin. Crypto is finally freedom. And what I mean by that is actually it's freedom of money. It's a notion that I, as a holder of crypto, now my money is truly free. I could move it to anyone I want in the world in any amount at any time of the day. I could even move it down the road into the future. I can send money to the future, to my children and grandchildren. And when I send it to my children and grandchildren, when I send it to other people in the world, I don't have to depend on anyone else. I'm doing it myself. For people who are anyone over 70 years old, but in the old days, telephone, when you want to make a phone call, you dial the area code in the United States, or you dial the area code of the city, and you get connected to the operator. And then you have to ask for the person and the extension number. And that's how you got connected through what they call a long-distance phone call. And that involved the third party being the operator to transfer your call at the switchboard, doing wires and stuff like that. So those are the really early days in the 20th century, mid-20th century for telephone calls. And today, that's how I feel like for money. The notion that when I want to send money to someone, when someone wants to send money to me, they have to go through a bank and fill out a paperwork and sign and say, this is the wire transfer, the SWIFT wire transfer. And if they have one wrong spelling in the account number or in the name or the address, or the name, first name, last name is reversed or something like that with a missing space, it doesn't go through. It's crazy, okay? So with freedom of money, we're saying that everyone can now be their keeper of their own money. And I think this is really, really huge. Okay, actually, one more story. So, with freedom of money, this is the most important freedom. As Americans, people have asked me, I'm a dual American and Hong Kong citizen, and people have asked me, now that you've made some money, do you want to get rid of your US passport because of the global taxation? And I've thought about this. To be honest, I've thought about this for the last five years. And at first, people say, there's a fast way, there's a lawyer in Hong Kong who can help you, turn in your US passport and, get a US visa, 10-year visa on my Hong Kong passport, and then you don't have to pay US taxes anymore. I've thought about this. Having lived in China for the last 12 years, knowing Hong Kong is essentially part of China, I'm very reluctant. And the other reason is because the United States, despite what your political inclinations are and who's president of the day today, I still very much like the concept of freedom, democracy. I know the country is not perfect, but I think the US is the only country where we actually have a chance at freedom of money. Because in the end, if we don't have the freedom of money here, I don't think we can have it anywhere in the world. It's a notion of information, my information, I could choose to have it and keep it, whether it's in the safe deposit box, whether it's on my mattress, on a piece of paper, in a USB drive, on my time machine backup, or just in a brain wallet in my mind. The notion that I can really keep my own money without regards to scrutiny and over-repressive sort of investigation into how much I have and stuff like that. Now, I'm not advocating for tax evasion, but I am advocating for people having the freedom to own their money and not having to surrender it to countries and governments. Thank you very much. Follow me on Twitter. A small joke I have is that my number of followers is my price prediction for Bitcoin, and currently it's over 75,000 followers. So that's $75,000, I think, in the near term, 2 to 5 years. Okay, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. Thank you very much.